protesters defying warnings from political leaders that their actions today were insensitive.
I think the protests that are happening over the course of today and tomorrow are deeply regrettable.
The rally's a precursor to vigils planned tomorrow as Australia's Jewish community prepares to commemorate the lives lost during the October 7 attacks.
Long live the resistance! Long live...
With us now is co-CEO of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, Alex Ryvchin. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
How's the Jewish community feeling ahead of tomorrow's anniversary?
We're feeling very many different things. I mean, the last year has been one of the most difficult in the history of our community in this country. October 7 a year ago was a day of national tragedy. We were bitterly traumatised by what we absorbed and what we saw and what we experienced that day. And speaking personally, when I saw those events unfolding and the data was coming in and the images were coming in, I had this feeling as though it was my own life and the life of my family that was in danger. And I know many members of the community had a similar reaction. To see again Jewish women dragged by their hair to captivity, to see people hunting Jews house by house, to see whole families burned alive, it's something which has riddled Jewish history but we thought would never happen again. And then to see the reaction of some of our fellow Australians when the news of this was breaking, people rejoicing in the streets, clerics saying this is a day of honour and a day of courage and a day of pride, it hurt us deeply. And the last year has been very challenging with soaring anti-Semitism, a lot of political challenges, but I've also seen the community come together in a way that's never happened before. We're more resilient than we have ever been, more determined, and so many people who previously had very tenuous links to the Jewish community have stepped forward and they want to engage and they want to assist in this fight.
Have you felt an increase in anti-Semitic aggression over the last year here in Australia?
Absolutely. You know, statistically, we're talking about upwards of 500–600% increase from where we were a year ago. But behind every one of those stats, there's a story. And I've spoken to hundreds of community members who have suffered personally. I spoke to members of the Jewish LGBT community who faced a coordinated campaign to drive them from the Mardi Gras and prevent them from marching. In the end, they did march, and I was proud to march with them. I've spoken to students who are abused and harassed on the streets, mothers who don't know whether they can send their kids to Jewish school anymore, actors who have been denied work. I mean, it's really affecting the community in a profound way.
The organisers of the actions this weekend have said that they feel the need to protest the ongoing war in Gaza, and they also have said that they want to do it this weekend in particular. How do you respond to that?
Well, you know, we asked them beforehand publicly, show some humility, show some shame and take this day off. I mean, they've had the control of the streets for a year now. They've brought so much hatred and division and support for terrorism to our country. But this is a day of solemn reflection. This is the day when the Jewish people suffered a generational trauma. And all we want to do is come together with our fellow Australians and grieve and mourn. But seeing the tenor of these protests for the past year, we knew they wouldn't listen to our words or the words of many politicians on both sides of the aisle, because their aim is to divide and inflame and to provoke. There's a movement, sadly, that's not for peace, it's for more violence.
Today's protests were largely peaceful. However, there were spots where we saw some protesters carrying yellow flags, seemingly in kind of, you know, I suppose, recognition of the Hezbollah flag. And also there was one man arrested in Sydney for showing a swastika on a Jewish flag. When you see that kind of behaviour, what do you think?
Well, look, it's horrific, but frankly, I'm kind of desensitised to it because this is the nature of the movement. We will see at every one of these protests...
Very small. It is very small, though, what we saw today.
Well, look, I mean, what you don't see at these protests, in small number or great, is calls for peace, calls for a two-state solution, recognition of the right of the Jewish people to a national homeland. What you do hear are chants for an intifada, which is a return to suicide bombing, a call for Palestine from the river to the sea, which means the destruction of the state of Israel. We hear every single old trope and slur directed at the Jewish people about Jewish money and power and control of politics. These are the things that permeate this movement. So seeing a swastika, I mean, people are horrified by it. Because there's this now intense focus on the movement, but I've been seeing this for a long, long time. This is who they are.
Tomorrow is a significant day. What will you be doing?
I will be joining with my community here in Sydney in the evening. We'll be getting together, I think, in our thousands to mark the day and to mourn and to reflect and to take solace and to comfort each other in our grief and in our trauma. That is the Jewish way. We come together, and even in times of such horror and despair, we manage to uplift ourselves through prayer and through song and dance and messages of hope. But at the moment, it's very difficult to be jubilant and buoyant and to find that hope because the hostage crisis continues. There are 101 Israelis that are still held in captivity in a living hell. So we pray for them, we mourn for those that have been lost, and we devote ourselves to fight for the release of the hostages.
Alex, we appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you.